Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Know the Rules of the Game podcast. We're so excited to have our next guest, just an incredible lady I've known for many, many years, Sylvia Gutierrez with the SBA. And welcome, Sylvia, to our podcast.
Thank you, Desiree. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So let's give a little overview of what the Know the Rules of the Game podcast is. It's brought to you by Women in the Housing Real Estate Ecosystem. Each episode will feature invigorating and open discussions with key executive leaders and experts on recent trends and developments, and friends and family, which I also consider Sylvia after all these years, right?
Yes.
We will make the listeners feel a part of the conversation. And our goal is to get Sylvia to share a surprising fact about herself, and I'll share a tip of the week. A little bit about myself. I am the president and CEO of not only NAWRB, but also Desiree Patno Enterprises, a real estate brokerage. I'm an advisor and investor for Amicus Brain, AI for Aging Population, also the chief strategic officer for Zulu Time, and I'm a publisher and a connector for and a national speaker to the wealth of knowledge. It crosses a very vast economic footprint. I've been in the business for 30 years, and I lead a team of social impact, gender equality, and access to capital, which is why Sylvia is so fantastic to be on this podcast with us. I'm so honored to have her. Plus, I also provide personalized advisory services to the real estate and family office community. I reside in the Women Impacted Public Policy WIP and Leadership Advisory Council and Enterprising Women Advisory Board. The Know the Rules of the Game is our newest trademark for our professional development tool to revitalizing communication and partnership between industries as we work together to form mindful strategic solutions achieved through a gender lens. Our goal is to help facilitate greater social impact by reaching a wider audience and engaging with like-minded individuals and organizations. So Sylvia Gutierrez is the Economic Development Specialist for the U.S. Small Business Administration. She's been part of the SBA for over 2 decades, 21 years to be exact. She's also representative, has it, right? Or a little shy there?
Yeah.
Gosh. And I've known you at least half of that, then?
Half of that, yes. Half of that.
Wow. That's amazing.
Maybe like
we have
8
both
years
grown.
or something like that. No, a good 8 years.
Well, I remember the first one we had in Irvine where we were at the Lutron Center, and we walked in there and we did the whole pitch of, we brought in J.D. Olson, the construction company, and they were just there, and Lutron ended up facilitating all their lighting for all their 3 hotels that they were building. It was insane. It was like, you just went, whoa, okay. So didn't expect J.D. Olson to be there from a small business perspective, but then I didn't expect to hear out of your mouth that you were an international furniture guru, right?
Yeah, the international representative for American furniture manufacturers. Where are those manufacturers now?
That's a whole nother subject another day, but right. Think about it. I mean, how many stores are closing down here in California? I mean, the new rules, the new laws came out, and things are being just decimated between every day. You're finding a new store or chain, not only in California, but everyone's looking at e-commerce. They're looking at different ways of doing business, hence access to capital and logistics to keep it business running. So
yes,
we're going to talk about that. But I'd like to also finish your bio real quick that talks about you're a representative of the Women's Business Outreach to Hispanic entrepreneurs, business counseling, and public speaking.
Yes.
So it really, you tie in so much of what we have become and bring into the forefront women, Hispanic environment. If you think about here in Orange County, where you and I are both based out of our headquarters, we have the largest concentration of births being of Hispanic origin, right?
Yes.
And the development of wherever you go, knowing Spanish is definitely a plus versus not. And understanding cultures from all different world places, not just Mexico, Guadalajara, Ecuador, or Spain, all these different countries that come in that we have to make sure that we understand the cultural differences and things like that. but also the environment of how we interact and how we can't take for granted what we think we know. We have to stop and listen. So that's what I want to get to you on. Our very first question that we always have. What is something, okay, so we put 8-10 years of you and I knowing each other as we had our pre-call. Tell me something about you that everyone on this call is going to hear, or I shouldn't say call, podcast, is going to know that people don't know about you. And I've given you a whole 10 minutes to think about it. So in 10 minutes.
People don't know that I like the movies, that I like going to the movies, and people don't know that I do have a favorite actor, and that is Tom Cruise. And whenever there is a Mission Impossible movie out, I am there in line to see. This is a fun part that I share with you that a lot of people don't know about me because they think.
And what's so fascinating? What's so fascinating about Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible that just drives you that you have to be number one in line?
You know, it's like I read about him, and I hear that he's never been late to a set, to a filming, and that he prepares and prepares and prepares, and that he's what I like about him is that he is so passionate about being a movie actor, about being an actor. He's just passionate, and his total dedication to his career is what I read everything I can about him.
Interesting. So if you think about, I think it's fantastic because you have modeled your life around someone that you use as an example of someone who's dedicated to their craft and what you mentor, in honor of National Mentoring Month. You have depicted someone in your personal life that you love. I mean, you mentioned he's never been late to a set. He understands his craft. He learns about his role. He understudies. He spends months learning, building up his body physique to be that person. Becomes trained, whether he has to fly a set or deal in it. He all those different components that go with it. You have become obsessed with this person because he amplifies. I mean, I can hear your voice, so I can say it. And I'm being honest. I know you, Sylvia. Like, you're like, I'm there. And how many times, if we want to be very bold, how many times have you seen the same movie with him in that movie? I'm guarantee you it's more than one.
Yes, that's right. More than several times.
The old cult of go and watch the movies at midnight, and how many times have you seen that movie? 50 times. I can't remember the name of the movie back in the day when you and I were young. So, this is exactly why we talked about 50% of the SBA's employees are of retirement age. You love what you do and how you can help other people. And your success comes from the joy of making other people successful and happy by giving the resources to get it done.
Yeah, that's right. I am passionate about helping people navigate the system, because a lot of people don't want to take the time. They don't know where to begin. And I have always been passionate about teaching people how to navigate the system, how to get started, and how to follow step by step the leads that they receive in order to get to where they want. And I love it when people see things clearly and that they find solutions to what they're looking for.
And where better can you do that than the SBA? Because not only are we changing the products and services and amplifying what you have, but also your leadership changes between administrators, administrations, growth of what you guys are administering, and the development and understanding of the changes of the Guard, from the SBIR, the STTR, which is a form of the SBA that has not been around since day one. For those of you who don't know what the SBIR and STTR are, the Small Business Innovative Research, and the STTR is a small, what's it called? It'd be nice if I knew it off the top of my head. I'll look it up. But those high growth, high commercialization products and services are what the SBA also funds into. They give up to $10 billion. So you are the amplification of saying what, which leads us to our next question. How did you become so passionate with small businesses and helping people with their goals toward entrepreneurship to lead you where you are today?
Over the years, I think I developed a passion over the years. In the beginning, when I got started, I was passionate about the possibilities and the potential, and I was passionate about the people that I got to meet at economic development departments of different cities and working with people like yourself, passionate, heading an organization and passionate and mission-driven. I always wanted to work with people that had a mission, that have a mission in life. And I'm inspired by their energy. For example, I was really inspired by what you were doing, and that is how we met. That you sent me an email and you said, "Can you send me?" And I looked you up, and you were not too far from my office. And I said, "I'm going over to her office to meet her because I like what she's doing, and she's working on a Saturday. I can get in the car and deliver what she needs during the week to her office. I am not going to send it to her." And that's how we met. And that in the beginning, when I started working here at the SBA in the district office, because before that I worked in liquidation of disaster loans. And so when I came to the district office, the possibility of meeting the people that are in influential positions to make things happen, I was like, that was like for me living the American dream, having a dream job, and that was it for me. Because when I was young, in school, let's say when I was like in elementary school, still in elementary school, and then junior high, I wanted to work for a big organization. And at that particular time, I had a teacher who introduced us to the United Nations. And when I saw all those flags and all those people from different countries and different places, I thought, I want to work at a place like this. And so I did apply for jobs at the United Nations. I didn't get to work for the United Nations, but I thought, oh, well, I can also work for the U.S. government. The U.S. government funds the United Nations. This is the United Nations. And the United States has influence all over the world because of democracy and diplomacy and all this stuff. And I said, I'm it. This is it. This is it for me. And that is how I came to work for the SBA, and I have loved it. I've been here, like you said, 2 decades. And when I go back and think about the work that I have done, time has gone by so quickly. I can't even believe it.
Well, you're a perfect example of how working at the United Nations or thinking of working at the United Nations. Well, okay, so I didn't get the job. You didn't stop. You kept motivated, and you say, well, I still want to work in a government capacity. So you went bigger than the United Nations because the government funded the United Nations. People don't realize that the government is the largest, employer in the world.
Yes, the U.S. government is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world, and also the largest employer in the world.
Yeah. So, if you have something to sell, odds are going to buy it. You have service that you do, odds are going to buy it.
Yeah. And I tell people, if you have a product or service to sell to the government, you can also export that product or service. And the SBA, you can get the training that you need in order to have doors open for you. And those are the things that make me passionate about working for the SBA. because I can show people what the possibilities are, and not just show people, but over the years I have testimonies, and I have actually seen people grow their businesses with the SBA programs and services, and I think that's where my passion comes from now, because I see that if people do their homework, if they're willing to invest time in educating themselves and doing the homework, doors open up for them. And I cannot say that enough. Is like for example, I hear people that say, "Oh, I hear that say, oh, junior college is so difficult. There's so much homework," and I'm like, hello, listen to yourself. It's like you cannot learn via tweets. You cannot learn via Facebook. You have to sit down and read. Sit down with a cup of coffee and read a complete article. I went to other school, like as you know, I got a bachelor's degree, I got a master's degree. We had to sit down and read. I took literature classes in college at USC. I had a literature class, and we had 28 books. We had to read 28 books in a literature class, and one of the books was Dostoevsky. Give me a break. We had to read. People need to be willing to read if they want to get somewhere, and especially if
you mean not more than a paragraph?
Yes, more than a paragraph, and especially if they want to do business with the government. Sometimes people call me, and this is the amazing thing. We're talking like having a cup of coffee. Let me say,
right.
People call me to ask for information, and I need to wait until they find a pencil and pen. No,
that's just
no.
Your time's too valuable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you got to come, as I always tell everyone, you have to be prepared before you get on the phone to talk to someone to get something, because otherwise it's disrespectful of time. I'm sorry, Sylvia, we did them. Anyway, so it's a reality check that, when you and I grew up, we died to get our hands on a resource book or check out a book in a library.
Yes.
Those who know me very well know that I have a saying that I end an event, as if I have a long time to really get to dive deep into, do you get stranded on an island with a 50-year-old or a 20-year-old, and why? Mm-hmm. That we, as the baby boomers, have learned that we must read and absorb and maintain our intellectual capacity and continue to add to it, and not just be, hey, let me Google for one aspect of it and not understand the purpose and the end game, the start game, and who can revolve and plug into that game, right? And that is why I believe that you are still there, because you still have so much to give, but they have so much to learn from you, and yet we can't find replacements, because that the school of true knowledge absorption, I'm going to call it, has left the building.
Yes. It's on its way out.
It's now become, oh, you're one of a kind. You are unbelievable because you know all this, and you're like, no, I thought everyone knew this. Like, this is standard, right? No,
it is still.
Am I missing?
Necessary. It is still necessary. The big gurus of the world, when you talk with them, or like the creator of Tesla, what's his name? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yes, when you hear them talk, you know that they read an article from cover to cover, because of the depth of the knowledge that they have. So for the new generations and the younger people, the baby boomers that want to get somewhere, if they listen to the big gurus of high tech today, they are doing a lot of reading.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people need to do that.
Well, people who, the younger generation that is forming companies that are very technically savvy or, that are app-based or whatever. Those are the people who are playing, experimenting, and reading nonstop. Hence the problems with all-night binges of, we just had this thing about Billie Ellis that I read, did a video. I didn't know her. I heard her music, saw a bunch of the entertainment things, talk about mentoring. And I got a whole new appreciation for her because they did a set where they were doing the karaoke, singing in the car. And the set was that they went to her home. I'd never seen them go to their home. And she goes to her home, and she had a rule with her mother that her mother couldn't force her to go to bed if she was working on music. So any form of music, whether it was playing the music, writing the music, reading up on the music, building her craft as a musician, her mother could not force her to go to bed. She's 17 years old, and she's the biggest hit that ever hit the books and broke all Billboard charts.
Wow. Yeah.
So she was rewarded on the fact that she studied, practiced, and learned her craft versus then not in depth of reading a paragraph. She read book to book.
Yes, yes.
So I'm trying to correlate that to that. So that's why, like you said, I love it that the best of the best in the industries are those who understand their craft and do what you just said. Lots of reading. So key of the day for you is that when you access Sylvia and everyone who works for the SBA, not only is it free, but they also are human beings. And to get to know her, you have to respect her and her line of how she does what she does, that you maximize every second of every moment you can be there, because as a mentor, you've got how many employees and how many people in all of Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino County that you have to be a service to on behalf of the SBA.
Yes, yes. People have to learn how to do research, and it's very simple these days, to just Google something and then read about it and read articles and then look deeper into a particular subject until you understand it well. It's the same thing like going to our website. SBA.gov has several menus with drop-down choices for people to learn about the SBA or to learn how to write a business plan. And just by going to our website and reading a little bit about it, people can prepare a business plan.
Well, they have videos. The whole website was completely redone, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yes.
Massive. And I'd like to say that NAWRB is on the website as a resource partner for women-owned businesses, and there's only 9 of us, so I'll take that.
You're there. Yes, you're there.
We are there. We are there. They're always like, that's why I'm pretty knowledgeable what you guys do over there in a lot of different capacities. But it's exciting, and this leads us to our next question, so thank you. Is in honor of National Mentoring Month, what are 3 rules to access capital? And I'd like to preface it before we go and have you answer that question, is the 3 pieces of this podcast I really want to focus on is small business loans, business planning, which we've talked about some, and then the other one is natural disasters, where you say you started off in. So getting access to capital, people don't realize that the small business loans is one, and business planning we talked about to the level that you are there as a business partner, that you don't have to pay, you don't get equity share, that's here to help you strategically lay it out, understand it, and not only start it, but be there as an advisor to continue as you grow. And do you scale? Do you sell? Do you fold? What do you do with it, right?
Yeah.
So, and that work comes from link with someone who you love. Link with someone who sees the same ideologies, who you like as a person, who you like as someone who you're going to invest your time, that every time you go meet Sylvia or any of the SBA out there, that you're going to sit down and say, I value you. You gave me my homework assignment. I came back, I completed it. And now that I did this, look how it worked or didn't work or partially worked. How can we tweak it to continue to grow? And to this day, I'm getting better. I'm not the best pupil over here, but we have other ways to connect and help each other.
Yeah.
So what are the three? So let's address. So thank you very much for your friendship, and not only that, but also, you know, to keep me in check and keep me always up to date on locally what we got going on, and also, you know, relationships if you passed my way. So 3 roles to access to capital. What are the 3 most important roles that you believe that for getting access to capital?
To gain access to capital, I would say people first need to have some savings. And I know that is a contradiction, and people want to say, well, if I have some savings, I won't need access to capital. And well, yeah, we can stay on that line and go around in circles, but the truth of the matter is that it's better for somebody to have some savings. And when you have the savings and you're looking for capital, don't spend the money and think I'm going to use my savings and then I am going to look for capital because I don't want to be in debt. Women have, and I read a lot about the women handle capital for their businesses. They are afraid of getting in debt. My recommendation is don't be afraid of being in debt, and maybe that, to me, that comes as a result of having had student loans and then paying them off over several years. I was not afraid of getting in debt because it was a tool, a resource that allowed me to complete my education. So it's the same thing that I say to people. Don't be afraid to get in debt when it comes to your business, but make sure you know what you're doing. And my recommendation is plan, meet with a business consultant, paid for by a grant by the U.S. government, free consulting for 1 hour, and they can help you plan your business. I think it's so important to utilize the resources that we have from mentors, from coaches, either business coaches, life coaches. I tap into those resources because I'm like a big sucker, like another thing that people don't know about me, a big sucker for motivational speakers, motivational life coaches, and advice that they have in that sense. So I'm a big sucker for that. And then another thing is, people need to have a job. Have a job, and if you have a job and you want to start a business, don't rush into starting a business because you don't want to be responsible to a boss. No, that's the wrong idea. Have a job. Make sure you have money coming in while you're planning your business, while you're developing your business plan. Until your business gets off the ground, do not quit your job, or find one in the field where you want to start a job so that you can get connections. A lot of people have started, some women that I know have started successful businesses because they work for let's say they work for a construction company, or they work for a company where the boss was either going to retire or close the business, and then people said, even if they retire or close the business, I want to work with you, and that forced them to start a business. They were in there, they were experts, and that is why they were able to step out of that company and start a business right away. But a lot of people are not in that situation. So my recommendation is don't quit your job, get experience, and be humble enough to have a boss. Okay, because if you don't have that, you won't be able to even work for yourself, because you'll have to do a lot of nitty-gritty type of duties when you have your own business. And if you're not willing to do them for somebody else, you're also not going to be willing to do them for yourself, which is going to be...
You mean you're not going to get my coffee? Sorry.
Yes. You know what I mean? Those are my 3 suggestions. And over the years, I have seen that those are key in order for people to secure capital for their businesses.
Well, I tell everyone who's buying a house or anything, you're telling a story. You got to prove that you can save. You got to prove that you have to keep flexibility of incomes coming from somewhere. And we talk about keeping your job and doing on the side, but at the same time you have to be willing to do everything and anything. You cannot be just on the sidelines and say it's beneath me. I'm a CEO now of my own company and I can do it. Well, let's be real. As one of these incredible ladies that sits on our council says, Desiree, I go up to the Girl Scout cookie girls and I talk to them about, what it's like to be, leadership and things. And they asked me and they said, how does it feel to be a CEO? And she says, well, she turns around and she looks at them and she goes, do you plan where you're going to hold your cookie sales? Do you plan and how much you're going to buy and how long you're going to be there and what day you're going to be there? Then you are your own CEO because you're designing everything. And the first position has to be the CEO. And the 5-year-old went, oh, like I'm the CEO? Wow. Right? So, and that's what you're doing. You're saying storytelling. You've got to frame it out. And that's where, to be honest, Know the Rules of the Game became a vision. If you think about it, we own those 6 words. And when we grew up, the old cliche, know the rules of the game to play the game. If you're not there, you're not part of it. And all these years with all this technology and AI and fourth industrial revolution going on, and no one came up with trademarking, know the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So, we've got to look internally to understand just the basic principles of storytelling, of the golden nuggets that we're formulating here to know each of the different roles that you might not have thought of that could maybe be not so obvious, but really are basic. But then those would be more obscure to help facilitate a better quality life. So you're saying, show me that you have more than 2 cents. Show me that you're capable of holding a sustainable job.
Yeah.
And show me that you're willing to do what it takes when the going gets tough. And my risk of giving you a business loan to back you, because remember, the SBA doesn't lend you the money. They're the backer of the money that gives you the money, and that you're going to go, oh, you've proven the basic fundamentals of living and also owning a business.
Yes. Very important.
So I love it. I love it. Okay, so what piece of advice would you give to those to best leverage that resource in terms of access to capital and overall economic development?
To what? I didn't hear the word.
So what piece of advice would you give to those to best leverage their resources in terms of access to capital for overall economic development? So if I'm going to scale my company, how to best leverage who and what they have?
Oh, I would say a lot of it in order to leverage the resources, people need to give themselves time to leverage resources. Because a lot of times people are very busy in their businesses or their lives, and they do not want to spend the time going out to leverage those resources, to find out what is out there for them. And I would recommend that people take the time, free themselves up for going out there to find those resources. Because if you don't know the resources, you cannot take advantage of them. And a while ago, I developed a saying here in the office that there's no shortcut or substitute for an outreach activity. And it's the same thing for business owners. There is no shortcut to going to a webinar or to going or having a webinar, of course, at your computer, or going to a mixer or going to an event like a conference. Because when you are at the conference, you're going to not only meet people, you're going to see what is out there, and you're going to see the possibilities that could be available for your business. and there's no shortcut to that. So if instead of working 8 hours, and then, or maybe even 8 hours, and you need to take 4 hours to go to a conference, go to a conference and meet some people, because meet people that are together in one place. People already, organizations like the SBA, we already spend hours and hours planning an event for people to come out and join us. We are putting everything there for them so they can come and meet the people and listen to information that they will need to spend 3 times more that amount of time to get those resources on their own, instead of just going to one place where people already did the work for them. There's no shortcut for that. You see what I'm saying? I think
I know exactly.
But so I would, like the saying says, show up. And I think it's important to show up.
Well, that goes into our last episode's quote was, be seen wherever you go.
Yeah, be seen.
And you have to be seen and heard wherever you go. Because if you're not, my cliche is how I dress. I dress very color coordinated, always have, I as a former model, I love my attire, and I make sure that I look and present myself very well. And when I show up somewhere, and that's me being seen, me being heard. Yeah, I always ask questions. I always get up there and raise my hand so people could see how I present, what I say in an area that I might not know anything and I might know a lot. Because we always can learn no matter who we are, where we're at, no matter if we're the reigning experts in something.
Yeah. So over time, I've learned. It's like be seen and allow people to see you. Allow people. When you go somewhere, you're allowing people to meet you. It's not just you are going to go meet somebody. No, when you step out, you're also allowing people to see you.
It's unbelievable because you have to welcome in the uncomfortableness. And that being said, Burgundy sent over our quote of the day, which really amplifies this saying: life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that is so true, and we need to internalize that.
Yeah, well, if you think, and it's by Neil Donald Walsh, who gave us our quote of the day, and not only do we internalize that, but if you think about the D&I movement, you think about all the different, different types of movement, whether it's gender lens, you could go down the list, but we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because experiences changes us and grows and keeps us, because, if we get into a place to where we're not familiar with as we travel, or a situation where we don't have a cell phone, oh my gosh, my smartphone is not with me, and I can't find where I'm at or what I need to go. How do I know what true north is? How can I navigate direction? How do I know what to eat or not to eat if I'm in a foreign country? We could go on. And with that being said, life begins at the end of your comfort zone, because you're not living, you're existing.
Yes. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable, and because we have to tell ourselves, nothing's going to happen to me if I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to be uncomfortable, and it's not even going to show. It's something internal. Nobody's going to notice I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you know what? That's okay. The idea is that you look at some of the best entertainers. They say you have no idea how much fear fight you have. You're like, what? And they said, as soon as I get into my set, as soon as I start, I become this person. But as soon as I'm done with that set, I get off the stage and I'm no longer that person. So I'm able to clone and put my armor guard around me. And so in closing, I'd really like to touch one more thing. So we touched on, the parameters of getting a small business loan. We touched on business planning. I'd like to touch on the last segue of the rules of the game, and that's natural disasters. You know, as you know, 4 years ago or plus longer, we were called in by the NWC, the National Women's Business Council, who's the advisor to the President of Congress and SBA, and it was formulated in 1988 when women could not sign a business loan. Men had to be a co-signer on a business loan. And to think that's still only 30 plus years ago, that's mind-blowing. Right? Totally mind-blowing. And so, and what a natural disaster is, okay, we all hear it about the fires here in our headquarters state of California, the hurricanes or tornadoes, the mud landslides, what's going on around the United States. But we got a phone call 4 years ago about the natural disasters. That what's so incredible is the SBA, what they do, in addition to everything else they do, is that they actually are the administrator of the money for natural disasters. So if you're a renter, $40,000, you have access to a homeowner, you get $200,000, and a business owner, you get $2 million.
Yeah.
The thing that's so incredible, and you've heard me say this quite a few times. I could be wealthy. I don't know how many times I've said this, but as a renter, here you're not believing that or thinking or even mindset that if my car got washed out or my cell phone or my laptop or whatever, that I could get $40,000, no interest, no payments, and no processing fee for the first year.
That's right. Yeah,
on a $40,000 loan.
Yeah, the SBA, after the administrator or after the president declares disaster area, the SBA goes in and can approve loans for businesses and personal loans so that people can rebuild their lives after a natural disaster. And you're right, the interest rates are very, very low. I'm talking about like 2%. And I think people should take advantage of that so that they can rebuild their businesses and their personal lives, their property, and like you say, computers and whatever they need to get back on their feet. And those loans, they do not need to be approved by a bank. They're actually approved directly by the SBA. And in this particular case, the office is in Sacramento, and that's where they're processed. So people don't have to go through a credit, like they don't have to demonstrate that they have good or very high credit. I know they have to have some type of credit, but independent on the amount. But they have access to a loan to get back on their feet.
Well, and the whole core of it. Thank you for that. The natural disasters, you get 60 days supply, and people need to realize that this money is set aside and there's no limits. Meaning that they want hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands, millions of people to apply for it. This is not saying, hey, we're going to run out of money. They literally have endless money to give you because it is a loan. It's not free money, but it technically, in my book, really is, because a 2% interest rate on a $200,000 remodel loan to your home, or 2% interest. It used to be 1.75%. Down on a loan for buying a car, to buying a computer, fixing things up. The difference between FEMA and the SBA is FEMA is about stop the bleeding. SBA is about giving you access to money and a loan to actually reconstruct and rebuild. Not only let's focus first on the consumer, which is you don't need to be an asset holder, which is a personal property or a homeowner. You can actually be a renter. Then it goes into home ownership, and then it goes into business owners. Now, business ownership is more like 3.5% to 4% interest rate. It's a much bigger interest rate because of risk and reward, obviously. But that core is what the rules of the game is about, because as soon as we put out the SBA's logo on everything, everyone said, Desiree, don't own a business. Desiree, our constituents don't own a business, so we're not going to put it out there. And even them knowing me, hearing it 10 times on the same phone call, they could not remove the word mentally that the SBA had to be a business. So we had to remove all the logos, everything that had to do with you off the literature, the write-ups and everything. And not until we said, if you see the word SBA, they are the administrator. They give you the loan, but you do not need to be a business owner. And, flashing red lights and the whole, ambience and everything. But that's the rules, right? That highlights who you are, access to capital.
Yes.
So
in different forms for business, personal life, or growing a business. And there's so many resources to help people to, let's say they think, oh, I think I want to become an entrepreneur and I have these ideas. If they sit down with a mentor, they can kind of filter through what kind of business they should have if they are bouncing around a few ideas, and instead of wasting time, they need to talk to somebody who's an expert and helps them zero in on what is going to be a good business for them. So those are really good things.
Very cool. Well, in closing, I am so honored, so happy to have you. It's been a while. Thank you very much for being on board and getting this podcast off. And so the tip of the day, sourcing capital can come from anywhere. It's not directly from, it could be directly from the person you're talking to. It could be someone they know. It can come from entities. It can come from getting to know the people, and you have to ask. So my conversation in closing is a tip of the day. Sourcing capital can come from anywhere. Just ask, right?
Yeah.
Ask has got to be, and if you ask everything in a capacity of a question when you're in front of someone, you're being heard. You're asking for resources, whether capital being financial capital, whether capital being pools of data or pools of relationships. Do I need to say more, right?
Yeah, ask, and then somebody's going to say, oh, have you talked to so-and-so? Oh, you have the business plan? Yes, I have a business plan. And then what's the next step? Oh, just ask until you get to where you want to be.
I love it. This is awesome. All right. So in closing, how do we get a hold of Sylvia? How do we get a hold of the SBA? Give me your contact information.
Well, my telephone number, direct line is 714-560-7454. And my email is sylvia.gutierrez@sba.gov.
Awesome. And that's the Gutierrez with a Z, just to make sure. And repeat your phone number one more time.
714-560-7454.
Awesome. So thank you very much. And this is Desiree Patno. To get a hold of me, Desiree.Patno, Patno, @NAWRB.com. Our website is NAWRB.com. So as we all have heard, anything has to do with quality of life, has to do with land. We're about the infrastructure, or bringing to you, the rules of the game, and hence what we brought this to. So thank you all for tuning in, and look forward to make sure you follow us, share this, and get this out to the sphere of influence that you can help leverage your resource base to know the rules of the game, to play the game. And thank you all, and tune in for next week at 8 a.m. for our next release of our podcast. So thank you very much, and you have an incredible day, Sylvia, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Desiree.